What's up guys, and welcome back to another Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon video, and today we are going to be talking about the trials possibly returning in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. So I put up a video a few days ago talking about the possibility of gyms returning in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon because of the extra plots and the building materials we saw in the original games, Sun and Moon, and whether they could then build on that along with the Pokemon League in the sort of updated games, updated versions. But as equally likely as that is that they keep trials and give them an update and give them a refresh, and sort of, you know, we want something to keep the game fresh for us, and updated trials. We've seen some possible like Pikachu Clubhouse trial possibly or something related to that, who knows, that could link into that somehow. But you know, that's the idea, updating the trials, maybe adding a few new trials, stuff like that. So we're going to look in this video about what they could do, sort of thing, to actually update the trials and make it new, I guess, new and refreshing. So if we start off by looking at the existing trials, so we have of course the 7 trial leaders, trial captains. First up, Anima on Melee Island, pretty simple trial there, just battling a few trainers and then battling him, so nothing too much there. I feel like that's what you need though for an introduction to the game, first sort of simple trial. Well, actually it's not even this trial, is it? I'm completely forgetting what it is about. Obviously you chase around the Rattata or the young goose and do that, and then you get to the end and you fight a little Eradicate or Gumshoes depending on your version, so I would imagine a similar version to that on Melee Island, and of course maybe building in a battle with him, because the battle with him is optional. You don't have to have the battle with him, it's later on in the story, so maybe they could filter in and have, you know, your you have the actual totem battle, and then as well as that you battle the trial captain, because in terms of battling trial captains you can battle most of them. You know, definitely Alina will you battle. Then obviously as we go through the list we'll see what other ones we can battle too. So moving on, the next one, of course we have Lana, Kiawe and Mallow, all for Akala Island. Of course Lana's trial is the Wishy-Washy Totem Pokemon. Kiawe's trial is of course the silly little spot the difference, which is painfully obvious, and obviously then the Salazzle battle, and then Mallow of course has the Rantis after you find a few things in the forest for her, or the jungle rather. So in terms of those 3 trials, you could update them to some extent. Of course you don't really want, you could have done Wishy-Washy again, you just don't want it to be follow the weird, you know, sort of rustling water, and then have the trial. Kiawe again, you could update it a bit so it's not like spot the difference, it could be a bit more fun. I think the split for Kiawe's trial was half the people loved it, half the people hated it. People that loved it mainly loved it because it was supposed to be funny, it worked towards that, whereas the other people hated it because they're like, this is just stupid, I want a trial, not a sit here and select an obvious image sort of thing. So who knows. And also Mallow's trial wasn't particularly a trial, it was more collect a few things, but you know, it just helped you explore the area, I suppose, so they could have an update of that in some extent. But in terms of the trial captains themselves, you know, you fight, I think, you can always fight one of them. Kiawe, I'm pretty sure, is the one you always fight, and then you know, you can, or Lana, one of them, Lana you fight, and then the other 2 are like one or the other, depending on the version, which is pretty shitty because I wanted to battle both of them. You can't, so there are instances where that would be cool. Moving further on now, of course, then to Ula'ula, we have first up Sophocles, the new trial captain, of course, the electric one. His trial is decent, it's just answering questions, not so decent, but you know, ish. Not amazing. Maybe they could update that to some extent. Who knows? But again, I don't think you battle him either, but you can battle him in terms of like Pokemon League Champion Challenge, so there is that to it, but it's not like a straight up battle in terms of as you go through the story, so that would be nice. Then we follow up next with Ace Roller. Of course her trial is to do with Mimikyu. I feel like you can keep that, or at least have some sort of spin on the trial, you know, similar to, you know, related to Mimikyu. Maybe not taking the pictures of the Poké Finder, but something along those lines related. And of course battle her in, again, in the Elite Four, so again, maybe do it. Trial champion, who knows, trial captain battle, whatever. And of course the last trial captain then is Mina. She doesn't actually have a trial, of course, because when we see her she just gives us the Therium Z, which is pretty shitty, and then we do get to battle her later on as part of the Ultra Beast storyline, so there is that to it. But the updated trial would mainly focus around Mina, I suppose, because she doesn't actually have a trial, but at some point, you know, in the story she does actually mention, maybe I should go and make a trial of my own. So maybe that's a small subtle hint to, you know, these updated games getting a trial for Mina, and obviously a fairy type totem Pokemon, and following that along there and seeing exactly how they go, and how useful that could be, I suppose we'd say. So we'll see how that goes, I suppose, if we actually do get one, and then maybe hopefully battle her too. But it's understandable she's based on Pony Island because there's no trials on there. She's literally the only child captain we even see there. So it makes sense that she would be based there, and obviously depending on how that's then structured in the remade games, you could have her just before Pony Gauntlet and such like that, and somewhere around there, and obviously give her some fairy area something. But as well as the existing trial captains being updated and getting updated areas and whatnot, we could also see some extra new ones, because here we have 7. So if you add an extra one, that's 8. That's the same as the amount of gym leaders, so it sort of be like gyms in some aspects. And I feel like we would like at least one more trial, because to me it felt pretty disappointing. There were only 6/7. There were only actually 6 we did, but 7 in total, because you have 3 on one island, and then the other 3 islands, one has 1, one has 2, and the last one's just left with 1 on its own as well. Of course, you do have the extra dragon trial on Pony Island, which does account for something as a totem battle there, but it's not really quite the same because there's no trial captain. So what if they added some extra trial captains and extra people? Well, who is possible to actually do so? Well, first up we have Kahili. She is a member of the Elite Four in Sun and Moon. I feel like she's a candidate for being a trial captain. Obviously that seems like a downgrade, but we don't know how these updated versions of the games are actually going to flesh out, whether they are supposed to be everyone getting more powerful or just like different power shifts basically. Whereas Kahili here could end up shifting around and becoming a trial captain near her golf course. Probably the trial could even be related to the golf course, and you could see how that would play out there, and then battling her as a flying type trial captain would be pretty cool. Next up we also have Molane. Now we find out in Sun and Moon that he has literally just given up being trial captain, and Sophocles has taken over. He's a steel type user, so there's definitely a possibility that he could end up having his own trial. Again, he's a challenger for the championship in Sun and Moon, so there is that. But he could also become a trial captain if Sophocles sort of rises up beside him, or as we've spoken about, maybe there's a time shift, so maybe Sophocles hasn't quite risen up yet and he's still under Molane, or vice versa, and Molane just decides to come back similarly. Who knows exactly, but again, I think it's a candidate. Then, following up then, we also have Hapu. Now Hapu, of course, is the kahuna of Pony Island, and you're again probably thinking same thing with Kahili, why would she be getting a downgrade to only be a trial captain? Well, one of the ideas I came up with, which I think is pretty decent, is that obviously we find out that just before the events of Sun and Moon that Hapu's grandfather has passed away. Hence why she then gets chosen by, Tapu Fini to become the next kahuna of the island. What if, in the updated version of Sun and Moon, that Hapu's grandfather hasn't died yet, hasn't passed away yet? He would still be the kahuna, and that would, again, I feel like fit in with the rest of the kahunas really, because you have, obviously, Hala, who's pretty old, Olivia, who is not old, but she's a middle-aged woman, I'd say, or getting there at least, and of course then you have Nanu on Ula'ula, and so again, adding an older member figure there would make a lot of sense, I feel, because the kahunas are supposed to be the overarching members, the older members of the community rather than the younger ones. So Hapu could then become, again, a trial captain on Pony Island and work out like that. Again, she'd have a ground type trial, so there's definitely some ground type areas on that island, so you could definitely work it out like that. It's a possibility, I think, if they decided to, mix it up a bit and introduce some characters they mentioned, and have like a different alternate universe entirely, which would be pretty interesting. And the last one I mentioned earlier about the Dragon Trial. Now that Dragon Trial is there, it's on Pony Island, but doesn't actually have a captain. And apparently it's been run down for a long while, so what if, in these games, in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, they actually revived the Dragon Trial and had a Dragon Trial captain to watch over it and actually give you some form of trial, as well as then fighting the Totem Pokemon. I feel that would be pretty cool. Who could do this? I ask. Well, there is a challenger of the championship in Sun and Moon who is a dragon type user, and his name is Ryuki. So I feel like it's definitely a possibility that you could work it some way, possibly that they could end up becoming some form of trial captain. He's it's a bit different because of course he's not actually a resident of Ula'ula. He's more of I don't know what you class as particularly, but he's just a travelling rock star, movie star, etc. I'm just checking I've got his name right. Yes, Ryuki it is indeed. Yeah, we're told he's travelled to Ula'ula from the region beyond the sea in order to spread his fame. So it wouldn't make much sense that he was, for example, a trial captain, but in this alternate universe he could instead of being a musician, he maybe lived on Ula'ula the whole of his life, and you have a slightly different design to him, and he becomes a dragon trial captain. That would make sense because obviously dragon type. Makes a lot of sense there, and I don't know if I want them to remove the dragon trial. from Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, because it was really not so challenging, but it was like the final trial and it was Dragon type. Makes a lot of sense there. So they either have to give him a trial captain or just leave him empty and get a similar sort of feeling to last time. So I feel like it'd be better if they did indeed get a trial captain. Before we finish up the video though, just a quick overview of the Totem Pokemon, whether or not I feel they could change them. So obviously most of the Totem Pokemon in Sun and Moon are, Generation 7 Pokemon. Whether you could change them out for extra ones and mix it up a bit again, I don't know, without getting the full Gen 7 list down. For example, Lana's trial, rather than Wishy is the perfect candidate for that trial, really, for a Totem Pokemon. But, maybe she gets, Delmise, or obviously Delmise is not a water type, you guys get the idea there. And then, so for the fire one, maybe you have Turtonator rather than Salazzle, makes sense there. For Mallow's grass trial, maybe you have, instead of Lurantis, you have, can't remember its name right now, Serena's the one, I got there. Serena instead. We've seen a very menacing looking shot of Togedemaru in one of the trailers, so maybe that's the Togedemaru Totem Pokemon that Sophocles is now using, maybe, who knows. Mimikyu I feel like is going to stay. The other option, you switch it out for Delmise, because again, get gross ghost type there that could fit in with a trial theme. And then obviously Mino, we haven't spoken about too much, but she would be a fairy type Totem Pokemon, and what that could be, I don't know too much, but again, without looking at her fully, I don't think there were too many fairy types in Generation 7, so maybe you could even visit older generations to get some Pokemon from Totems here. But those are just my thoughts, guys. What do you think? Do you think trials are going to return in Ultra Sun and Moon and have an updated feel to them and sort of, extra trial captain? If so, let me know which characters you'd like to see become trial captains, how you like their trials to play out, and any particular Totem Pokemon you'd like to see used. But that is going to be it for me for today, so I shall be seeing you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, my friends.